How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to some more Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass. In today's video, we're going to be making our way towards the next temple, which is a little bit of a hassle, but it's nothing super duper extraordinarily complicated. It's just going to require us to go to two separate islands. Now, with that being said, the first things that you can do are take care of some of the little treasures in this area. You could go get that one on the far left there, but I chose not to, just because I'm not really a fan of traveling in the ship just far distances, unless I absolutely have to, which I do have to at some point, but that's just not in today's video. And I don't know how many hits these pirate ships take, but it sure seems like a lot. I don't know if it's like 5 per ship, maybe, something like that. But here we go on the Isle of the Dead. And you might think, is the temple going to be here? Well, no. This is actually how we get to the island where the temple is. Which is fairly interesting, because throughout the game there's never really been like 2 separate islands we had to go to. I guess, yeah, it's just two separate islands just to like make progress for one temple. So what we do have to do here is take a little peek at this diary, and one of the notes is going to say there's a secret room in here. Your sword, I don't think works in this game for uncovering bombable walls. It's in the same spot every time though, so just toss a bomb. You'll see in a second where to toss it, and then there's going to be a secret room full of nice little items for us. So this island, the purpose is just so that we can erase that little cyclone that we saw on the map. We're going to get an item that will allow us to do so. So the pure metal is not here, unfortunately, but I do really enjoy these islands. The second one we're going to be going to is a little bit of a maze, but, you know, we've gone through mazes before, and we've mostly survived. So, we'll be fine. This is just kind of giving backstory on the sort of things that we're going to be dealing with the knights we're going to be seeing. And I thought the compass was in this game. Turns out it's in Spirit Tracks. Because I knew one of the games had the compass, but it is not this one. And it's a little sad that there's not really anything on this island that we need to come back to after this initial trip, because there's just... well, we're going to be getting one more item, and there's just no switch. Okay, spoiler alert. The next item... oh yeah, don't touch these reports. The next item that we're going to be getting is actually the hammer. And there's nothing on this island that requires us to obtain the hammer, which is a little unfortunate, but I guess towards the end game, items do tend to get a little bit less used, which it's a little unfortunate, but we did have a good run for this game, getting to use all our items over and over for different quests and whatnot. So I'd say I'm fairly satisfied with how they went about having us reuse items, which is something some Zelda games tend not to do. I'm glad this one actually kind of pulled us together and we got to use the items quite a bit, so I'm grateful for that. Okay, none of these ship parts are very exciting. We will be able to put some parts together, give ourselves another heart or two, and for getting random ship parts, from what I've seen, the best way... Now, one of these things I'm not sure about, but apparently you might be able to save and quit for particular like maps that you get, and when you go to the... I think it's to save and quit before you find that X on the maps, and then you salvage those spots, and then if you get a part you don't like, you can just save and requit. Save and quit, not requit. Save and quit, and then apparently that works for getting different ship parts. Now, I don't know if that's accurate or not. It's just something I saw on a forum a couple days ago, so take that with a grain of salt. Otherwise, getting ship parts is primarily going to be from minigames or another DS console with Phantom Hourglass that has the parts that you want, and you can just exchange them. And then you can also buy some from Beetle, I believe. Now, I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to go about with the treasure parts. In terms of showing like 100% completion games, there's nothing really different that I can show in terms of how to get the parts. And there are tons of videos that show all the ship parts for the game, so I think what I'm going to do is just show myself getting the rest of the treasures, and then that'll probably be all that I end up showing. And this here is a little clue on where you're supposed to go to figure out the way around this maze. It did take me a little bit, but I eventually get there. I'm just not a very precise person, I suppose the term is. Can't remember why I kept digging random spots though. Oh, I was trying to get hearts. Okay. So around here is where you're supposed to dig. Now, I would suggest not being me and just hoping for the best, because you can actually figure this out just by counting tiles. But if you want to be like me, go for it. Just keep on digging in this general area, and eventually you're going to find what we're looking for. A little hole in the ground. But otherwise, just count the tiles. It's not that difficult. I just chose to be lazy. Or do more work, I guess. Okay, so now we're in a special little cave. And I believe there's a gem in here, if I'm not mistaken. But I like that this island's being so generous with rupees, kind of tying in with the knights being here. And you'd expect knights would have treasure, and they do have treasure. But I'm not sure what the original intent of the gems was exactly. Maybe it was to give ancient soldiers, like, specific powers? I don't really know. I don't know how that all works. I'd imagine maybe it could have something to do with that, but who knows, because I don't really think too much of these games' backstories of, like, specific temples or civilizations are really gone into detail too much. And if you have a little bit more patience, you can make past these rocks just fine. I just like running my way through for two reasons. One, I have a lot of hearts, and two, I have the defense upgrade, so I'm not particularly worried about losing my health. But once we make it out of the cave, what we want to do is shoot an arrow to the west, and I think, yep, there's a treasure chest up here. A treasure map. So we shoot this arrow over here. Alright, guess you could grapple it too. And now we're one step closer to being able to get the item that'll allow us to access the next island. So this here is just telling us what we need to do for the maze. We'll just want to follow these steps in correct order. I think there might be one or two that says that the instructions are like faded out or something. Yep, right there. I believe everything is written down for us. Aside from these three. So, now that we have the new information on how to progress through the maze, we can actually go inside the maze and not get lost, like some of the people in there did. Which is a little unfortunate for them, because I don't really know how it loops around. I mean, it must be some sort of magic, because this isn't a very big pyramid, so who knows for certain. Get on up here, and then I believe we are going to take a... I think it's right or left. Might not be. Maybe it's straight again. So somehow this guy ran out of energy going up one screen, which is not very relatable, but, you know. And I think the skull is just to tell you that you're going the correct way. I think it is, at least. I don't know. Or maybe it's to trick you and think you're going the wrong way. So here's where we need to be, because this is going to allow us to access that main portion. Very cool. Alright, so now we can head up these stairs, and that is going to take us to the little middle section there. And we're going to talk to a ghost after we pick this up. Alright. So that is everything that we need to do here on this island. There's a fair amount of items, I gotta say. I mean, we got all those gems. So, had a decent amount of stuff. Had a treasure map as well. But only people here were some ghosts. So, we got some conversation going, so that's nice. But now, we can make our way over to the other island, which is going to have the cyclone. And the cyclone is actually going to disappear. And I did speed this part up because I do not feel safe splitting the video at certain parts, because sometimes in the editing afterwards it gets all messed up. I'm not really sure why. Because it never happened on my older laptop. So I don't know what the deal is now. But now, we can make our way here. The Isle of Ruins. And you might be thinking, holy crap, this island looks terrifying, there's so much crap on the map. And you'd be correct to think that. I'm not gonna lie. This island is kind of a pain in the butt in terms of just looking around and trying to find things. It is a big old maze, and I did have to make several cuts because it did take me a hot minute to go through this place. But just know I do make it to the temple eventually. And then fortunately, if you collect everything that you need to get here, you never have to go back here again. And I believe this is where I did have to make a cut because the video started glitching out, but I think this was the only spot that happened. And I might have cut it. No, it's right there. You'll see, but that ends in just a sec as soon as I defeat this guy. I don't know what causes it exactly, if it's part of the, like an issue with the driver or something. I'm not really sure. There we go. Any second now. There we go. Okay, so that fortunately takes care of all that little glitchy video-ness. So now we can go ahead and find some more knights who are going to guide us through the island. And our first goal is to be at that pyramid in the top left corner, just in the corner of the map. And you'll notice there's some tombstones that we can't reach in this area. But don't worry, because we're going to be able to reach them soon enough. Now, that may be good news or bad news, depending on who you are. Maybe you're like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Well, you kind of have to if you want to find your way on your own. Otherwise, you can just watch me at the end of the video, and then I figure things out. There's a ton of likes in this area, which are kind of annoying, but you can throw bombs at them, bomb shoes. You can probably shoot them with Oreos. Yes, you can shoot them with Oreos. Or arrows. I believe you can shoot them with arrows. Maybe not, though. But otherwise, we can just make our way through this maze without getting eaten by likes. And I don't know why they don't suck up the bombs. Unless I was just missing. Maybe I was missing. I'm not sure. And you can just use your boomerang to figure out if it's a like or not. You don't have to keep on swiping like I did. And I believe these are this game's version of Stealthos, if I'm not mistaken. So, no shields this time, fortunately, but they still do like to kill us. But fortunately for me, I have a lot of health, so I'm not going to let them kill me. And we're at a point in the game where rupees are kind of not super helpful unless you want to buy a bunch of stuff or go through minigames, which maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. However, this begins another little quest that we have to go through before we can even access the temple. We gotta find a key for that there pyramid thing from this tomb right here. This dude is gonna direct us where we need to go. Alright, so he's opening another path for us, and by another path, it just means a bridge. It's not super exciting, but it's a bridge. As exciting as bridges can be. And I like Link's little looking around there when Celia is floating around. Very nice detail that he actually looks at the fairy. And that was just another cut because I did get lost a little bit. We just gotta make our way on over here, and then I think there's gonna be a boulder at some point that we gotta push. That might be a little bit later. Yeah, I think that's a little bit later. So now we head into this pyramid, and then we have to talk to yet another ghost, eventually. And I know these boulders might seem terrifying, and they kind of are, but just know, we'll get through this. And I don't even know how that happened there. How I just kept on getting arrowed. Or how I fell down there twice. So here we are with another ghosty who is going to open yet another path for us, or help us open a path, I should say. There's our king's key. So now we can go back to the first pyramid and put the key in. And I guess they flooded the island so that the beast in the temple couldn't really escape, which it's pretty smart because it would just drown right away, and then it would probably unpossess the dude or whatever, however that works. I don't really know. It's fortunate that Link came here, because then he can fix the problem. Which has probably been like that for quite a long time in the Zelda universe. So we just head on back to the temple, or the little pyramid. Take care of all these. I think these are the bokoblins. And be careful of the little boulder things. Try not to fall down, because then you have to backtrack a little bit. Okay, so here we are in Bremeur's temple, perhaps it's called. And what this is going to do is somehow drain all the water throughout the island. Now, I don't exactly know how this worked in the first place. I'm assuming there's just some sort of thingamajig that only had like a certain amount of water in here somehow. Maybe there was some floodgates that closed once a certain amount of water got in here, and then the water just stuck here, and then what that did was just, I don't know, I guess flush it all out somehow. I don't really know. I don't know how that all works. However, now that we have flushed out the water, we can access new parts of the island, and there's a few things that we can grab around here. Some of them are some rupees. There's a courage gem. I think it's a courage gem. And there's, of course, excuse me, more boulders to be hit by. So, whatever floats your boat for this part, you can choose if you'd like to be hit by boulders. Keep on being hit by boulders. Perhaps the boulders just want to be your friend. I don't really know. But it is a little bit of a maze down here. But it's, the whole island's kind of a maze, but you just gotta use your map. Unlike I kind of didn't, because I was just caught in the moment, I suppose. But our next objective is to head over to the new pyramid. Or not the new pyramid, but pyramid that we couldn't reach before. And there's one more thing that you may want to do beforehand, and that is to go to the cemetery and then make note of the order that the tombstones are going to have you. Okay, so with the tombstones, there is like an order of how we're going to draw something. I mentioned this earlier in the video. There's a drawing that we need to do. And for the drawing, you just need to follow how the gravestones, or the tombstones, whatever you want to call them. I don't even know if they're gravestones. The stone tablets, what they say. You got to make sure that you follow them. Because if you don't, then you might not know what to draw. So I would recommend that you do follow them. And there is a gem that we can get off to the right there if you want to push this boulder off to the right. Otherwise, you can get it later, which I do get later on in the video. So this creates a little shortcut back to the front for us, which is what we're going to need to quickly traverse all over the place. And you'll notice now there's another cave on the top. And that cave is going to lead us to another gem, because there's just a ton of gems on these islands. And you can't jump down there for whatever the reason. Not really sure why they put an invisible wall there, but they did. And there's another power gem, so we're getting awfully close to having all of our gems fulfilled. And in fact, by the end of this video, we will have all of our wisdom gems available, meaning that if you really want to, you can go back to the Spirit Island, I think that's what it's called, wherever it is that we trade in our gems, and you can upgrade your defense again if you're really struggling with the island, or just you kind of want to have defense upgraded, I suppose, a second time. You really don't need it, though. The temple isn't super difficult that I found. So, but if you'd really like to, go ahead and go for it. You will just have to backtrack to the temple, that's all. And unfortunately, we won't be able to do our power and courage gem upgrades. Courage gem upgrade is just an upgraded sword beam, so it's not really that exciting. Power gem for the upgraded offense, I guess, if you really want to, you could go back for just to help out with this temple boss, which doesn't even use the sword that I remember. Part of it might use the sword, I think. But this is the little cave that we unlocked by draining the water. And inside was the final wisdom gem. At least I think this is the final one. Either the final one or the second final one. And then there's still another gem for us to collect on this island. And some of the temple as well. So, we're going to head on over to the pyramid. Like I said before, I would recommend heading to the graveyard first. But if you want to follow the counter route, go ahead and go for it. And don't fall down like I did. Because then you kind of got to walk all over the place. Oh no, I was thinking a different area. Okay, you do want to fall down. Because now we can push this boulder upwards. And then push it along these little slate tablet tiles? I guess they're tiles. And lift this rock up. And then it's going to be, I believe, our final gem for the video. No, this is not our final gem of the video. But I think this is our final wisdom gem. So with that over with, we can head on this way. And now is when would be a good time, if you haven't gone to the cemetery, to go ahead and go there. Because we're going to need that order. So I was a little confused about this part at first, because I didn't think to look upwards, because the way the map looks, it looks like the cemetery, or not the cemetery, the pyramid is blocking, like, the top, like, area, this section here of the map. But you can actually walk behind the pyramid, which confused me for quite a while. But I eventually figured it out, don't worry. Otherwise, you wouldn't be seeing this video, and probably still be stuck there. So now, we can head into this little pyramid, or big pyramid, that has a small interior. And this is Max's temple, which doesn't really sound like a knight's name, but Max was apparently a knight. So, I don't know if you actually need to talk to him to gain access to the, like, the ability to draw on the door. I would assume so, because he does give you the yes-no dialogue, which usually, like, opens a flag or something? I don't know. Okay, so you do have to talk to him to open the door. Okay. So yes, make sure you talk to him. And then this is the reason why we would need to head to the cemetery. Because the door in front of the door that just opened is what's going to allow us to actually get to the temple. I know this was a lot of work to actually get into the temple, but I suppose the knights were just being cautious, just in case like some evil force tried to destroy the materials and whatnot. So perhaps in the long run, it is best that they went this route, but for us it was a little bit annoying, but not super horrible, just a little bit annoying. So what I would do is write down the directions and the numbers that the map tells you, or the little tablet thingies tell you to go, because that is going to be your key for getting around the little maze area here. And the stars are the order that you have to go in. So you find star 1, that's where you start. Find star 2, that's where you go next, and so on and so forth. And then you just follow along with the direction. You could probably guess it, to be honest. It would just be a matter of like finding where you start and where you go. So potentially it could take you a hot minute, unless you get really lucky and just decide to draw it a specific way, which I guess it's possible someone did it on their first try, but I didn't, because I went this way and then went back to the graveyard to actually figure out the road. And there's a little, I forgot how many times these legs ate me up. I don't know if they actually drain your rupees. I think they do. But there's 100 rupees buried here, so make sure that you take them if you want to be a little bit richer, that is. Otherwise, you don't have to. And here's our final courage gem outside the temple. Our final one will be obtained inside the temple, and there's 200 rupees in the chest over here. Not on this side, on the left side. See, 200 rupees. And I wonder why they didn't make a big blue rupee. I guess because it's like a 5, which I don't know. I guess a gold rupee is cooler than a blue rupee, so never mind. But now that we have the route for the temple ready, we can make our way to the door and draw the design as it tells us to. I forgot there's these rupees here. Some of this you kind of do on autopilot, you know? You know what I'm saying? So it's not... Okay, the reason I stopped there is because that is the entrance to the temple there, but I think if you drop down there, I want to say the monsters won't spawn in. Or maybe it doesn't even let you drop there. I'm not sure. I didn't care to chance my luck and have to do all this over again. Although, of course, I could have saved and quit, but what fun would that be? And for whatever reason, these boulders keep on respawning. I guess it's to make sure that you couldn't miss the gem, but I guess it works. So there's nothing on this side. I don't know why I kept going down that way, but we have to go above the temple, or above the pyramid. And here is where we draw our design. So we start off in the corner up here. As soon as I actually get to drawing it, like that. And then we go down there, and then there, and there, and then there. And this one is not as finicky as that Triforce was in the Temple of the Ocean King, which I had to make like a bajillion cuts, or not a bajillion cuts, but I had to cut quite a bit of time out, because it took me like 3 minutes to get the Triforce to register. For some reason, it only registers when you draw it poorly, which is a little strange, but okay. And here's going to be our last little threat for entering the temple. It's two of these little sea monsters. And you can use bomb shoes, but that kind of takes a little bit of time, and it's easier just to boomerang them. Although it's not the easiest thing in the world, it's still a little bit easier. Although maybe the Great Spin would work better. I'm not certain. Otherwise, the boomerang kicks their butts, and for whatever reason, they can't drop in the water, which I guess would maybe heal them, so it's probably best that they don't drop in the water. But after killing them, the door is going to open, and we're going to be able to access the temple. And that is going to do it for this video. So I want to thank you guys all for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.